Hello and welcome to Crane Talk, a podcast that covers all things cranes, rigging, and heavy iron. My name is Isaac Smith, and I am joined by two experts in the industry, Ron Thompson and Gene Greiner. Gentlemen, how was the conference?
It was hot, Sir Isaac. We had a cool down here in Dallas the week before we attended the conference in Phoenix. It got down to the 80s. So we get to Phoenix, and we see the 5-day. It's 110, 112, 114. Gene and myself actually had to walk to the conference hotel because we were a couple of blocks away in another hotel. And cowboy boots, long pants, and 114 degrees, and we show up to the conference with a sweat ring.
But it's dry heat.
Uh-huh.
Everybody keeps saying that. I don't care if an oven is humid or dry. It's still hot. We missed the cool weather week that we had in Dallas. So when we left, like you said, it was like 80 degrees. That morning we landed in Phoenix, it's like 112. It's just like, no. It was so hot. But it was good. Bright, sunshiny days and a lot of people, and the conference was great, and had a great time. So flew back Friday, and it was fun. It was good to see all of our friends, and
us insurance nerds, when there were, 2, 3, 4, there were 5 people on our flight back from Phoenix, back to Dallas. 5 people in our industry that we know very well. And I was thinking, should we take 2 aircraft just to separate our exposure bases here? Just in case.
Let's hope not.
But do they have a podcast? That's
no.
There you go. You go.
No, we were the only podcasters. Another quick story. I went to an Indian restaurant in Denton, I guess Saturday, and picked up some Indian food to go. The people are from New York. Great, authentic Indian cuisine. And I walk in, he goes, "Hey, you're the crane guy." I go, "Whoa, I've only been here one time." He goes, "No, I listened to your podcast." I go, "You're kidding me. An Indian restaurant owner from New York listened to my podcast on cranes?" He goes, "Well, I thought it was interesting." I go, "Cool." So he remembered me, my one visit 3 months ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Shout out.
Yeah. I'm not stopped at grocery stores yet. Maybe that's next. So, we attended the Specialized Carriers and Rigging Association. It's an association. I think we had 750 people there. Great turnout. We saw a lot of folks in the industry, brokers and crane owner companies, and it was a great conference. A couple of workshop topics. I think we'll lead off, Gina. I think the one thing that I captured from that SNRE conference is a discussion on registered agents.
Yes, learned something new, and it dovetails nicely with a lot of the conversation that we've had, in prior episodes about, jury anchoring and the reptilian theories and all of, kind of the tricks up the plaintiff counsel's sleeves when it comes to large awards, coming out of over-the-road liability type claims. But what I was surprised to learn is at least in Georgia, because the group we were talking to is primarily based out of Georgia. And, if you remember from the judicial hellhole episode, that Fulton County ranks number 1 on the list. And so what we learned was if a company, albeit they're not located in this example, Fulton County in Georgia, they're not located in Fulton County, yet their registered agent, the attorney that they've retained, maybe he's in Fulton County, and that registered agent's address is there in Fulton County. At least in Georgia, that gives plaintiff counsel the ability to use that jurisdiction for the suit. So I found that very interesting, and then that garnered in a conversation of, well, okay, if that's the case, is anyone doing a study about what are the most favorable counties in a state where you can place the address of your registered agent? Fascinating stuff. Some defense, at least, instead of just giving it up and just not being aware of this. There could be some things you could proactively do to maybe help yourself in the event of a suit. So
Yeah, so a registered agent, like in Texas, the Texas Business Organizational Code says you're required of every domestic or foreign filing entity to maintain a registered agent and office in Texas. So the reason for that, lawyers got to find where you're registered and where maybe to send legal papers such as a lawsuit.
Mm-hmm.
So if your registered agent is in we call a judicial hellhole with a very favorable plaintiff jurisdiction, you may want to take a look and say, we actually operate in a very conservative jurisdiction, but our registered agent is in, say, one of those judicial hellhole venues. And so we learned, in Texas, I'm not sure how it applies, but in Georgia, we learned that they could easily sue in the jurisdiction where the registered agent is located.
Yeah, it gives them a step ahead where the defendant just was completely unaware that this is something that's possible for them to do. And now you're starting out a process like one step behind just because you picked, a registered agent in an address that's in a judicial hellhole. Here in Texas, I'm thinking about the Metroplex here. Dallas County, is on that list. But right next door, Tarrant County, Fort Worth, it's more favorable. Or if you go to the north, Collin County is favorable by comparison. You go to the east, Rockwall County is really favorable. So I don't know. It's something that's interesting that we could, boil down pretty deep. But
so in Texas, a registered office is a business office address of the registered agent, but it doesn't have to be the same of where the entity's place of business operates.
Right.
So you could have a registered agent located in let's say Rockwall County, but your operations are in Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have a more conservative jurisdiction versus one that could be very favorable toward plaintiffs.
Well, the other thing, too, is if you think about like construction subcontract agreements that the crane and rigging industry are entering into, sometimes you read, in those agreements that the hiring contractor, the GC, is demanding that the jurisdiction be X. So if you do the research and you understand which jurisdictions are the most favorable, then that's something you could negotiate on the front end as well. With your GCs that are hiring you. So I don't know. I just found it really interesting. It was something I hadn't really thought about on that level.
I know I've asked a similar question in the past, but on that same note, why doesn't it happen more often? Is there a reason apart from just lack of education, perhaps, that it's not already being done? Is there
Sir Isaac, that's a great question. I think it's just lack of awareness, lack of education. Just people don't think, because when you register an LLC or a corporation with I'm talking about the state of Texas, you go, well, registered agent. I need to have somebody that I know or in a certain location. It could be our house counsel. It could be even their house counsel, or it could be our CPA firm, or whatever it may be. They don't think about, geez, is that in an area where I'm exposing additional favorable plaintiff awards? You don't think about that. And I think people go, well, how do I know it's a judicial hellhole? call your lawyer. You can ask us. we know the county to stay away from. So just be aware of that. I thought it was an interesting topic. One other thing, Gene. Mid-October, there's a Texas Crane Owner Association meeting in Fort Worth.
Yep.
And I've been selected along with another industry expert, Billy Smith, and along with Parker Holt Higginbotham to discuss how this insurance market is affecting the crane and rigging industry, the heavy iron industry. And we'll be talking about that. It's a 3-person panel. We usually have about 150 people show up for that. And we're going to solve all the problems. We got the answers. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm going to lob bombs from the gallery at you, the hard questions. But I love the Texas Crane Owners Association. It's our local associate. So the one we just returned from in Phoenix is more of a national level association, and the Texas Crane Owners Association is local. And so, we're here in Texas, obviously, and so it's really a great time. I am looking forward to the panel, and maybe there will be a way that we can use that panel discussion for an episode, here on Crane Talk. I think that'd be great.
There'll be Q&As,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to talk to every person that shows up to give me softball questions. The Q&A part, lob the softballs, no high heaters.
We'll say the easy ones for Ron, the hard ones for Billy Smith.
Yeah,
right?
You got it. You got it.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that I get asked a lot, why is this insurance market, why is our rates going up so much? And I keep hearing this term, social inflation.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, what in the heck is social inflation? And we've talked about that in our prior podcast.
Yes.
And I think the large verdicts, I think the juries have just become not sensitive to the value of money.
Well, some of the examples that we used in the past were, hey, this piece of art costs, some insane amount of money. So how can we correlate this piece of art? If art costs this, then their life must be worth that. Or if a fighter jet costs some wild amount of money, then their life must be worth that. Or Patrick Mahomes or Shohei Ohtani, they just inked deals that are, in the stratosphere. So therefore, this person's life must be worth this. And so the jury, the social inflation and the use of that jury anchoring tactic within the courtroom is really driving a lot of this.
I saw a data research that the term nuclear verdicts, that was anything over 10 million. Now thermonuclear is a term being tossed around, and that's anything over $20 million. And I think from 2017 through 2022, the average jury award went from 20 million to 27 million on thermonuclear verdicts. Okay. And I think if you look around, everything costs more. Housing, food, gas is coming down a little bit, but everything you touch has inflationary pressure on it. And I think also that has played into the jury of increasing awards.
Yeah.
And I think another thing that we see a lot is the sentiment toward big corporations has been on the decline. 67% of jurors believe companies knowingly sacrifice safety to make more money. And the plaintiff lawyers have done a darn good job of convincing that this big bad corporation has a lot of money and ignored all the regulations that applies to safety and keeping their own people and other people from getting harmed.
Yeah, they have done a good job, but I'm sure we'll talk about it, but the recent Supreme Court case here in Texas, did they go too far where you have just, massive awards and they're using data or, correlative type scenarios like what I was describing earlier, and it really doesn't make any sense in the case. It's just a number just to get it as big as possible. You want to share about, what we learned in the Texas Supreme Court, which, going back to the judicial hellhole episode, the Texas Supreme Court is a backstop for our own, bad dockets that are here in the state. So this particular case, I think they proved that again. So.
Yeah, I think the case came down in June of 23. Sarah Gregory and Noon Prime Inc. versus Jazzwinder Cohan. It's a wrongful death case. And, the defense appealed to our favorite jurisdiction, the 5th District Court of Appeals in Dallas. And they go, no, you're good. I think the $15 million in non-economic damages is fair to the widow and 3 kids.
And this was a pile up due to icy road conditions, right?
Correct.
Okay, and there were multiple vehicles involved, and everyone settled except for the family of one of the other heavy truck drivers, right? I believe.
We talk about economic damages versus non-economic damages, and the pain is going to be the economic is what you can prove. Medical, incurred medical, paid medical, your loss of future income and current income, those can be validated. The non-economic is mental anguish, pain, and suffering. Now, how do you measure that? Mm-hmm. And we talked about that on our last episode, or 2 episodes ago in judicial, the hellholes. So the Fifth Circuit supported a $15 million in non-economic damages, pain and suffering, to the widow. Defense appealed that, and it went to our favorite court, the Texas Supreme Court. Mm-hmm. You want to talk about what they did?
So there was a split decision, right? 3 of the justices said, no, you can't use a correlation between random things and non-economic damages awarded to the plaintiff. It has to have a rational connection grounded in the evidence to be able to use it. And so they said, no, you can't say, just 2 cents per mile for every mile that the company drove that year. That would not be a correlation. Or like the example I gave earlier about, a sports contract or art or a fighter jet, those types of things. It's like picking a number out of a hat. So they said you really need to guard against those things. And they also said, I believe, that don't use what they made for a basis of non-economic damages either, because if someone makes more than another person, does that mean their life is worth more than another person? But they didn't really. So they said, don't use these types of things, but they didn't really give like, hey, you should use this, right? They're leaving it up to plaintiff counsel, in future cases to come up with, another type of argument that might be more grounded in the evidence. Who knows what that might be? I haven't seen it yet, but at least some of these things in Texas, they're saying, hey, it's off the table. Don't use these arguments. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think all the justices on the Texas Supreme Court level agreed that the justifications frequently offered to support large mental anguish damages are improper and will constitute reversible error. And I pick that up as being, you got to validate. You got to look at the mental anguish damages, and it must be supported by the evidence of the nature, duration, and severity. Not blowing up saying, well, paintings for Van Gogh was $50 million, and therefore we want $50 million.
Did it mention how they came up with the $15 million for this case? I don't think I saw that.
It just says the jury awarded the family
$15.6
million.
So it must have been like in the original hearing, the original court that was upheld by the appeals court. There must have been these types of arguments going on to get to the $15 million, I guess. But I'm just not sure. Just a question.
Yeah. But, I think the Texas Supreme Court comes in and says, we rejected the use of what is referred to as unsubstantiated anchors. And what that means is a plaintiff lawyer will come in and anchor the jury with a high demand, $50 million. And that's a starting point.
Mm-hmm.
And Texas Supreme Court says you're not going to use these anchor. You have got to have some validity to support the number you're asking for.
Well, and, with this decision, they've given defense counsel somewhat of a playbook to fight back through cross-examination, right? Hey, you can't use that argument. You can't, that's unsubstantiated. That's not a rational leap from A to B. So they've given defense counsel a little bit of a leg to stand on in defending the company that's
okay. This is one of the things plaintiff lawyers use to the jury on anchor. In the closing arguments, the plaintiff counsel urged the jury to award for each descendant 2 cents a mile for every one of the 650 million miles that new prime trucks had driven during the year of the accident.
So what's that math?
39 million.
Okay, yeah.
So Texas Supreme Court goes, don't use this monkey dust to come up with numbers.
Yeah, sure.
So I thought it was an interesting case, and we've talked about the Texas Supreme Court and the Fifth Circuit of Appeals here in Texas, and we're happy as insurance brokers to have that backstop in the Texas Supreme Court.
Yeah.
But how much do the insurance companies have to spend to defend it all the way to the to the Supreme Court? You're still in it quite a bit.
Hopefully less than $36 million.
Yeah.
What about the other side of that real quick? Because, this just keeps coming to mind. If a precedent is set in the legal system, as I understand it, an unsubstantiated anchor, if that exists, then there has to be a substantiated anchor. Is there a standard that has been set on what the value of a human's life is worth in these cases? Or is there a reference point that is considered the standard?
I see no standards in what juries will do. Plaintiff lawyers, they're very good. They're smart. Matter of fact, they're better funded. We've talked about the third-party litigation funding that they have access to where defense counsel does not. So when you have a well-funded plaintiff attorney as a big war chest, they can bring in the best medical experts, the best forensic accident creation experts, the best psychiatrist, and it becomes who is better funded to really get a big award. And Sir Isaac, I wish I had an answer for you. I don't think there is a standard.
I just think back to earlier episodes and the hoops, like you're talking about, that they jumped through to make a case. It just shows more and more like the losing battle that's going on the other side. I would not want to be a lawyer in this field.
I think that's what they signaled in this case. Is, hey, you guys need to come up with a different argument to create that standard of what we should award for non-economic damages for pain and suffering and mental anguish and these types of things. And so it's
so we haven't dived into this, but let's talk a little bit about the capacity issues in the heavy iron industry for insurance carriers. Since we've been in this hard market with the big thermonuclears, I think since 2019, there has been a 60% reduction in capacity for heavy iron and the same for transportation. So that means you have 60% less insurance markets to go to than 5 years ago or pre-COVID.
Wow.
And the combined loss ratio is over 105%. Now, insurance carriers operated, you get different answers, anywhere from 40 to a 60% loss ratio. Now, you're talking $1.05. You're talking, that's way different. That's double than what the insurance company's target rates are for loss ratios.
Yeah, so what do you do to become profitable? You either reduce capacity, so in future claims, you don't have this giant limit out there that you have to pay, or you got to raise premiums, right? And that's what we're seeing is carriers are pulling limit off the table, and they're increasing premiums to help become profitable. So, and then the question is, well, how much umbrella should I carry? Well, I don't know. It's different for every company, but it's it's no longer further down the income statement as far as the expense of this stuff goes. Like it's way up there next to like wage expense, and so we don't. It's become very, very, very apparent, that this has really climbed the ranks of what companies are spending money on, and this market's just been extremely, extremely tough for that. So,
well, the umbrella market I'm going to talk about our heavy iron in transportation because our heavy iron also has transportation exposure. The paring down of umbrella limits is across the board. So, if a crane and rigging transportation carrier company had $50 million 3 years ago, I would bet that's been cut in half because of pricing and because of just lack of umbrella capacity.
Well, and the people that are still playing in the sandbox too, if you think about it this way, you've got your first umbrella carrier covering the first 5, and then the next one covering the second 5, and then the next one covering the third 5, and on up we go. So the umbrella underwriters right now are no longer really underwriting on the risk per se. I mean, they are on a macro sense, but they've sheared away from like the micro sense of the customer that they're looking at, especially higher up in the tower. So all the umbrella underwriters on these different insurance carriers, they're waiting for the lower level underwriter to release his rates. And let's say that the first layer was like a 20% increase in rate. So then the next guy is going to say, okay, well, I'm on layer 2 from 5 to 10, let's say. So I'm going to bump it another 20 to 25% for his layer. And then the third guy, he goes, oh, okay, so 1 and 2, now that I have their pricing, I'm now going to build my pricing on the below pricing, and then on up it goes. And so that's why what Ron is saying, a lot of these companies are paring down their umbrella limit because that's kind of exponential premium growth. and it just gets ridiculous. That's something we're not too happy about, but we're facing it and we're seeing that. So with more capacity, hopefully, that conversation changes and that practice changes. But right now, that's what we're seeing.
The U.S. is the epicenter for social inflation. It's a U.S. phenomenon. And so when you have European reinsurers, say out of London, say out of Germany, wherever it may be, they're looking at U.S. and going, what is going on? In Europe, there's absence of juries, and the influence of civil law traditions. It's set up differently over there. Mm-hmm. So when you have European reinsurers looking at the U.S. market, they're taking a hard, long look in offering capacity for reinsurance, and that includes umbrella coverage.
Well, yeah, I mean that's probably what they're looking at the most is the over the road and the excess, because that's where the reinsurance exposures. That's where their exposure's greatest.
So we have the answers to all this, right, Gene?
Yeah, all of them.
And you can hear them.
Yeah, right.
We've talked about it before. I think it starts in the legislature with tort reform. Florida, we've talked about this before, has done a really good job. Texas has done a good job. It's just making sure that the statutes are passed and they stay as they were passed and not watered down.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, aside from changing the culture of our jury pool, that's really, you have to take it to the mat, right? You have to operate in a courtroom with maybe a jury that's not keen with your business, and you have to operate within the statutes that are there. And that's the defense,
Well, it has to address, again, this is my subject, is third-party litigation funding. The lawyers don't have to disclose that they've got a war chest.
They should be.
Of venture capital or private equity money.
Yeah.
And let's start there.
I mean, if we have to provide our insurance limits and discovery, I feel like they should have to provide, that level of detail, if they're funded in that way or not, because to your point earlier, it's a butter knife and a gunfight,
Yeah, they're promising 20% returns. Now, you can only get that in Bitcoin, right?
Yeah, right.
No, I'm playing with that. 20% returns that's very attractive, and it will bring in new capital at 20%.
Yeah. You know what? In talking about going to the mat and duking it out, I mean that's really the popular choice, because you're standing for principle, right? But the insurance carriers in this argument, butter knife to a gunfight, they're saying, hey, we could settle this for X before trial. And so if you say no, don't settle it, I want to take it all the way, and then the jury awards more than what we could have settled it for, then that's on you. That's for you to pay. And then the umbrella carriers likewise are like, well, if it gets into our layer and you should have settled it in the layer below us, we're out. And so, it's frustrating, but that's what we're seeing. I'm as principled as anybody else. I get it. But the reality of it is, it's a very tough environment. Texas seems to be doing some things that are helpful on the Supreme Court level. So I hope to see that, start to change the landscape some. Mm-hmm. Really do.
And the latest thing that I read as far as insurance company profits, it hopefully brings some relief. But it says U.S. insurers reported a $95 billion gain in first quarter of 2024, driven by strong premium growth. geez, you think that's got something to that? I mean, with the premiums we've seen in the last 5 or 6 years, and it says that the premiums are finally getting up to support surplus. That's the amount of money insurance companies keeps in the bank to pay future losses. So with the premium growth, it's actually stabilizing their surplus. So if there's any, I'm not saying there's going to be lower rates, but what I'm saying looks like some sunshine.
Less bloodletting.
Yeah, behind those cloudy skies.
No, that's good.
You know, you want to talk a little bit about, we talked a little bit about the hot topic is AI.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, AI. And how's it going to affect the insurance claims adjusting?
Okay, so I read that with the advent of AI, obviously with, carriers under pressure for profitability and growth and everything else, how can they use AI beyond just a chat bot, right? And so there's an idea out there that probably the first place that we'll see AI take hold in the insurance game is through the claims process. So a claim happens. The insured reports the claim. AI takes the report and processes the claim, and then it compares that to the policy, and then it sends out a drone for pictures of the damaged property to adjust the claim, brings it back, I guess settles the claim, and then they send the claim payment by wire. Mm-hmm. So, and what is that? That would generate how much savings to an insurance carrier in terms of...
Well, they said 25% right off the top.
That's wild. That's absolutely crazy. And at least for our industry, I don't know how I feel about that. Like, there are policies that we write where we will literally place in the policy form the name of a specific individual that we know and trust to go adjust these claims because he is such an expert on heavy equipment. And so now to replace that with an AI bot, I just can't even imagine that.
Do you want AI adjusting a $2 million equipment loss for one of your clients?
I just can't imagine. Okay, so maybe personal lines, hail damage. The car was banged up with hailstones here in North Texas. I mean, okay, all right. That's probably data that they have and they know what it costs to fix and these types of things. But man, some of the claims that we deal with, oh my God, I can't even imagine it getting to that point. I mean, I'll prove myself wrong at some point maybe, but we're in such a relationship business and a knowledge-based business, at least in our corner of this industry. I just can't even imagine it. I can't even imagine that.
I think maybe AI could be used for fighting fraudulent claims.
Okay.
Like AI will capture all this data from Google or all these other search engines, and they come up and compile.
Maybe there's like a flag
of
something. This flag is indicative of insurance fraud, which is a huge part of the insurance industry as well, is paying out on fraudulent claims. So that's a good point.
Yeah. We captured all the data on our investigation, find out that 90% of this stuff we're being told is probably fraudulent. So it's a tool that could be used, probably not as to outright deny, but it's a tool to help and maybe say, look, we've got all the captured data from AI that says that you're blowing smoke up our rear.
So, a visit from the special investigations unit of an insurance carrier is already a little like, I better, I better clean it up straight and narrow. But can you imagine the visit from the Special Investigations Group as a group of drones? Oh, man.
Gene, the AI, I've always thought it meant additional insured, right?
Yeah.
But the last 18 months, it's been AI this, AI that.
Yeah, it's really something. It'll be utilized for sure. To what extent? In our world, I don't know. But yeah, it's really wild. Reading that just blew my mind. So
I also, I think personal lines, they're trying to get rid of humans, and you can buy direct from an insurance company's website without talking to human beings.
It's all algorithm based, and nothing is negotiated.
Yeah. And so I was talking to Gene. I go, look, if they got rid of the Crane insurance broker, would you want your clients talking directly to an insurance carrier?
Oh my gosh. What do we tell our clients all the time? We're your sounding board. Bounce it off us before you just go spew that out into the atmosphere. We're your sounding board.
We have a lot of friends that work for insurance carriers, but when you get in the heavy iron transportation part, you need an insurance broker advocate.
There you go, Ron. Just putting it out there.
And I think
well, you need somebody who has a clue.
Yeah.
Just boiling, you need someone that has a clue. That's self-promoting, but it is true. You need somebody that actually can peel the onion, has been through this before, and they know what to look for. Because otherwise, data that gets out into the marketplace, oh my gosh, it can create issues.
Well, I had a crane owner in Phoenix come up to me and he says, "Hey, Ron, you're finally relevant." And I go, what do you mean? He goes, "Well, we talk about our insurance premiums daily now, and your name keeps popping up." And I said, "Well, I want to be Brock Purdy. I want to be Mr. Irrelevant. I don't want to be in your conversation daily." But it's a market we're in. And by the way, Brock Purdy for the San Francisco 49ers, a quarterback, was the last player picked. I think the 2020 draft, and he was Mr. Irrelevant. So, I'd rather be Mr. Irrelevant than relevant.
Me too. Yeah. Listen, if there's a bunch of relevance going on in our marketplace, that means there's problems in the market or, all sorts of things. So I agree with you completely.
That's a scary thought. I can't hack either of you if I'm a nefarious person. I could hack an AI. I mean, it's almost as if there's going to be AI insurance at some point because it's what the AI is going to get wrong, and the company needs to have its back covered.
You're absolutely correct.
This is spooky.
Yeah. The train has left the station. For sure. Yeah.
So the and the last topic I want to talk about is our good old Attorney General Ken Paxton. Ken Paxton has sued General Motors, GM, for unlawfully collecting driver private data and selling it back to companies, including insurance companies.
Yep. So
they were collecting driving habits and in driving scores. I guess they were selling them through different. When you buy a new vehicle, you go.
What do they call it? North Star.
North Star.
Yeah, and it's part of the onboarding process. And if you don't go through this, then there are safety features that are not able to be utilized in their vehicle. Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you that all of your personal data and your driving habits is now being sold to the insurance industry.
1.5 million Texans had their data shared unwillingly.
And the vehicles, it goes back like 10 years, right?
2015 and newer.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
Like a rock.
So you get an auto, you get a personal auto.
Heartbeat of America, and they're selling your heartbeat data as well.
Yeah. So you get your auto insurance renewal, and every year it goes up, and up, and you have no claims and no accidents and no violations. You go, why does my insurance keep going up? And that little guy in the closet is calculating all your driving data
I'm here for
and not telling you.
I'm here for my annual physical, doc. What can you tell me? You're good. I already got it from Chevy.
They have this great new AI that we correlate with the insurance companies.
Your stress levels are a little high. You're driving erratically, and your stress level, I can tell by your driving habits. Not cool.
So I just thought I'd bring that up. So just be careful. I think all these personal insurance companies want to monitor your driving behavior for this huge discount. Is that the latest, Gene, where they want to get eyeballs in your vehicle?
Yeah, the spy devices, like I like to call them. So if you were Ken Paxton, do you remember all the old Calvin and Hobbes bumper stickers with Calvin urinating on different brands of trucks? I wonder what Ken's is.
Ken doesn't drive a GM, I guarantee you that.
Probably not. Yeah,
he looks like a Ford guy to me.
Probably so. I mean, well, think about it this way too. If Chevy has captured all of this data, and now we're going, Tesla, obviously has more sensory data than Chevy does, I would assume, and now we're into the realm of these driverless cars. I don't know. I'm a pretty private guy. I don't like that information getting out there. I mean, my own personal insurance, I opted out of the savings of whatever it was, $200 a year. I don't remember, because I don't want it in my pickup.
Well, I think they advertise you can get up to 25%.
Yeah.
And I think they did a study that the average return on clean driving was about 3%. And they can monitor when you drive. So if you drive during rush hour traffic in the morning and rush hour traffic in the evening, no accidents, no tickets, but you get nothing back.
Yeah. High probability of accidents happening at that time, sure.
Yeah.
It's spooky. AI, everything. Oh, my gosh, yeah. Drones for... it's more of it's a sci-fi episode.
Are there any humans left to talk to?
Yeah. Oh, well, we're here.
Yeah, I know. But, we kind of talked a couple of different topics. I think next podcast we'll update everybody on the Texas Greiner Association meeting.
Yeah.
It's always a fun time.
Great.
And any other scatter shooting topics we'll come up with. But, it's been fun. And thanks, Sir Isaac. You do a great job on editing and producing this podcast.
Thank you. I'll take that moment real quick and just let everyone know we are on YouTube now. So if you want to be following the podcast over there as well, we had that episode with Chad, I believe, and you guys have loved it, those who have found the YouTube site on your own already. So, shout out to YouTube.
Absolutely.
We always end it with a little bit of fun facts. Gene, nothing's going on in your house with the 4 kids we call the tribe.
So, the kids are way into baseball, right? And they were super jealous because when we were in Phoenix, first night we were there, the Diamondbacks were playing the Giants, and I've never been to Chase Field there in Phoenix, air-conditioned wonder that it is. And anyway, so it was kind of an impromptu deal. We just, some other folks at the conference were going, and so I got to go to the game. You were there. It was awesome. The Giants, walloped them. It was more like a home run derby, and we'll see if the D-backs get into the playoffs. But I love seeing different baseball stadiums. I would like to start taking my boys to different ones, throughout the summer months and check them out. I got the boys some swag, brought it back, and they were all, jazzed about that. But it was a great game. It's a great venue, great place to see a baseball game. So if you're in Phoenix and they're playing, it comes highly recommended from a Rangers fan, So go enjoy the venue. It was a lot of fun. The boys were super jealous. So
that's a fabulous stadium. And when we got to Phoenix, Gene says, "Hey man, we got tickets to the D-backs game, thanks to Phil Cordova."
Yep.
And I go, "Awesome, man." And there's like 7 or 8 tickets. I said, "But count me out, man. It's 115 degrees. I'm not sitting out there." And I think Gene goes, "Well, no, it's an indoor air conditioned." I said, "Count me in."
He flipped on the topic.
Yeah, it was fun. I thought the stadium itself was beautiful.
Yeah, it was
how the fills were kept, and it was just a fun adventure. And
real grass.
Real grass. It's got a roof. It's inside, but I guess they open the roof every now and again to let the grass grow.
I guess. Well, we were debating it. The grass was like perfect, and we're like, there's a roof. Is it turf? Yeah. Is it grass? And there was a guy like a row behind us going, "It's grass.
It's grass.
It's for sure." They advertise it that way. He's a local guy. We didn't know, but I was like, that is awesome. So, and I like that.
And it's is it downtown Phoenix?
Oh yeah, it's right next to the arena where the Phoenix Suns play. It's right across the street. Yep.
Yeah. So our actual conference was in Glendale, and so we get Uber. It seems like we drove forever.
Yeah, it was a good way
to get to downtown Phoenix.
Yeah.
Glendale's a suburb, but it was fun. I watched it's an episode called Presume Innocent. And it's streaming on Apple Plus. It's 8 episodes. Jake Gyllenhaal and Peter Sarsgaard. It's a gripping and fast-paced whodunit. The wife and myself binge watched this on a Saturday. I think all 8 episodes. Can't walk away. I won't give you the plot, but great acting. The last episode is full of surprises. People I've talked to about it loved it. It's created by J.J. Abrams. He's the guy that created and wrote Lost.
Yeah.
And did a really good job. So I usually don't do 8 episodes on stuff. I don't have time. This one I couldn't walk away, and I actually blew it off and didn't watch college football on a Saturday.
Oh,
so I'm telling you, man. Presumed Innocent, Apple Plus streaming, and that's my recommendation.
That's a strong endorsement. Yeah, good looking out.
Well, we thank you guys for listening. Be sure that you subscribe and leave the show a 5-star review. If you have any questions, you can reach out to us by following the links in the show notes below. New episodes go out each month, and we will see you next time.